Have you ever stopped and wondered what happens when big money gets, well, nervous? All those global headlines about conflict and instability can feel a world away, right? But they actually trigger this incredible chain reaction, one that can quietly but dramatically reshape the very cities we live in. Today, we're going to follow that money trail. This is the story of a great money migration.
It's a pretty simple question, but believe me, the answer is anything but. Because when we're talking about billions of dollars on the move, it's not some abstract number on a screen. No, it becomes this powerful force that's hunting for one thing above all else: safety. So, where does it run to? Okay, let's get into it.
So, to really understand where all this money is going, we first have to talk about where it's coming from. And for a very long time, there was a really clear answer if you were a wealthy investor looking for a stable place to park your assets. For decades, that answer was the Gulf. I mean, think about it. The region offered this perfect cocktail for wealth. Basically, zero income tax, incredible world-class infrastructure, and this feeling of just unshakable stability. It was like the perfect, sun-drenched vault sitting right between Europe and Asia. But that feeling of total security, it's been seriously rocked. You see, rising tensions with Iran have sent these ripples of uncertainty across the entire region. And all of a sudden, high net worth individuals, and yeah, we're talking about some of the world's wealthiest people here, are asking themselves a really fundamental question: is this really the safest place for my money for the long haul? And that one question, that little seed of doubt, has kicked off this massive, though kind of quiet, shift. We are witnessing a huge migration of capital, and it's all being driven by that search for security. And the scale of this, it is just staggering. This isn't just about somebody tweaking their stock portfolio a little bit. We're hearing credible reports of investors moving as much as $100 million in a single go. That's not just a strategy, that's a massive statement about how urgently this capital is looking for a new home. And look, this isn't just us speculating. The people on the ground are seeing it with their own eyes. Private wealth lawyers, people like Ryan Lynn, are on the front lines of this thing. A threefold jump in calls? That's not just a blip on the radar. That is a massive signal that the wealthy are actively, and I mean actively, looking for other options. So here's the bottom line. That old strategy of just piling all your wealth into the Middle East, that's changing. Just like Ryan Lynn said, these high net worth individuals are now looking to diversify. They want to spread their assets out, hedge their bets, and lower their risk. It's the classic don't keep all your eggs in one basket play, but on a global scale.
Okay, so if these investors are looking for new baskets, where exactly are they putting their eggs? Well, the answer seems to be found more and more in Asia, where two major financial powerhouses are emerging as the top destinations.
So now investors are kind of faced with this choice between two really strong alternatives. On one side, you've got Singapore. It's famous for its super deep private banking networks and this rock solid, predictable legal system. And on the other side, you've got Hong Kong, which is really positioning itself as this incredibly safe and liquid financial hub, a perfect gateway for anyone who wants both security and access to those booming Asian markets. But to really truly get what's driving this migration, we have to look past the spreadsheets and get inside the minds of these investors. Because this is about way more than just reacting to the latest scary headline. Oh, I love this quote from Christy Dong, who's a high-end real estate specialist, because it just nails it. These family offices, these are the private firms that manage these massive fortunes for the ultra-rich. They're not just panic selling. No way. They are making super calculated, strategic moves. They are absolutely playing the long game, setting up their assets for stability not just for next year, but for decades from now. If you boil it all down, it comes to this one simple idea. The number one thing these investors are looking for is certainty. They are more than willing to trade some potential short-term gains for the long-term guarantee of stability and security. That right there is the engine driving this entire shift. Certainty over everything. Now, I know what you're thinking. $100 million transfer feels like it's happening in another universe. But this global flow of money has very real, very local consequences. I mean, what happens when all that cash tries to squeeze into just a handful of cities? So it is important to add a little nuance here. Officially, the big ratings agencies, they aren't seeing a massive system-wide capital flight from the Gulf. Well, not yet, anyway. But they are putting out a warning. They're saying if the regional conflict drags on, these flows of money into Asia could seriously speed up. And what does that mean on the ground? Well, it means a huge surge in demand for high-end real estate, which then has a knock-on effect, right? It can start driving up property prices across the board and ultimately raise the cost of living for everybody else in those cities.
So, this really is the final, critical question we have to ask ourselves. Sure, this flood of capital brings investment and a certain prestige to cities like Singapore and Hong Kong, but it also creates immense pressure. As all this global wealth rushes to find a safe harbor, you have to wonder who ends up paying for the space at the dock.